Hey YouTubers, Stuart H back. I'm Litmus on the Hardboil Forum, Stu H on the BrewDevil Ace Gluten System Facebook group. It's the one run by Sarah Paintree. She's one of the admins. You'll know her from Daft Cat Brewing if you follow that. So I'll put a link to the Facebook group in the description. By all means, jump on there. Loads of people who own these gluten-based systems on there, so great place to ask questions, whether you're looking to buy one or you actually own one today. So the purpose of today's video is I'm going to look at a couple of new items, upgrades that have come to the unit. I fully expect there to be a sort of BrewDevil, I guess Mark III. We've seen the original ones, the gluten systems, and then the ones with the updated controllers with a couple of updated bits on them. And then, natural evolution, obviously quite often you can buy the updates to update your early unit. I've seen updated controllers being fitted from Mark 1s to Mark 2s. So yeah, there's bits starting to flow down as these things do. They get out in the brewing community and lots of ideas come up. So there's two things we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the new handle, which actually I think this is one that's quite interesting because Paul's had this custom made and it's been made here in the UK. So we can have a look at that. Obviously slightly different from the original, but we'll talk about why that is. And the other thing we're going to talk about today is the new screen. Being referred to as a reinforced screen, press screen. Obviously you can see there it's got some additional ridges in it compared to the original one, so we'll have a look at that today as well and see what we think about them. See under what conditions you might consider doing these upgrades to your unit. Okay. Oh yeah, something I forgot to add. I try to remind people of this from time to time. Everything you'll see in the video, and all of my videos, I paid full price for. I didn't get free shipping. I got no remuneration or gifts, anything else for doing this. This is just my thing. I'm doing everything to pay for out of my own pocket, and I try to keep my reviews as impartial as possible. Obviously, I am a BrewDevil owner, so make what bias you will of that. However, I have come from a sort of more traditional boil pot brewing, esky brewing background, so it's not like I've gone straight in with this and I've got no experience of other types of home brewing, either all grain, extract or kit. So I've had a little crack at all different things at different times. So, make of that what you will, but I try to keep this reasonably impartial, and as I say, there's nothing in it for me. So I think the first thing we're going to take a look at is actually the new upgraded handle. Hopefully you can see this on the overhead camera. In fact, if I just lay that down on the bench so you can get a clear look at it. I mean, straight away, one of the things that I noticed here is it actually looks like it's potentially a little bit thicker. I mean, that's obviously not a negative, that would be a benefit. 6.9 millimeters. Yeah, so that's nearly, so that's 7.9. So actually straight away the new handle it's a lot heavier gauge. So I mean that I think is good news. It's an upgrade. It's not just the same thing but slightly different. And obviously it has the dent in the middle. Now the dent in the middle is there because a lot of people obviously use a block and tackle for liftings, and that's especially so when you've got the higher the unit, or the higher you've got the unit, or depending if you've got it on a worktop, obviously can be very challenging to lift this if it was full to the full height on the leg. So having a block and tackle, and mine's on a dolly on a rail too, so just to make it easier, that come from me having a bad back in the past. I had back surgery a few years ago and I just couldn't lift stuff, so the only way I could carry on brewing was to keep the weight down to the minimum and be able to bring a wheelbarrow in and put the grain basket straight into a wheelbarrow, etc. So that was a way I could carry on brewing. So I didn't do it for any other reason than that at the time. But obviously if you're brewing, you can just stand this on the floor, and potentially just use the normal handle if you want to. With a block and tackle, and I definitely found this, what you will find is that the tackle, not fairly tight, and I have had this slide around on the handle like so when you're trying to lift it, and that's, you know, that's more concerning when you've got a big heavy grain bill in there than maybe a light one. I tend to use the block and tackle for everything, but yeah, I think that was my concern. That's why I think this is a good upgrade for obvious reasons. You know, that isn't going anywhere, right? So you know, that's nice and sturdy, and it being an upgraded handle is or a mil thicker all around just means it's going to it's not going to flex as much as this one does. In terms of sort of side by side, hopefully you can see that it's probably about a millimetre longer all in, but we'll try it in the unit and see if that's an impact. If we lay that over the top, yeah, I mean, they've done a good job of that. Actually, you can see, I think my existing handle, from where I have lifted it out with heavy grain bills, you can actually see it's started to lift. So that's interesting. So yeah, you know, in terms of fitting the unit, I think we're in a good place. Let's have a look at it in the malt pipe. This is a challenge, getting the malt pipe in under the overhead camera. See if I can get that all into shot for you. So in terms of going in and fitting in the old thing in the existing spaces, yeah, perfect. You know, and it looking each side, you probably can't see this, but I'm looking each side. Is it sticking out further than the lip? The answer is no. It's pretty much flush to where the lip is. You know, I think that's a good fit. I wouldn't want it any bigger or smaller than that in terms of going back into the unit. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you know, as you'd expect from Paul, the devil being in the details there. So yeah, no issues with that handle. As I say, pros, it's bigger, it's heavier, it's got the notch in if you're using a block and tackle. Not really much more to say than that. I think that's a good upgrade if you're using a block and tackle. I know Paul sells blocks and tackles as well. I found mine on eBay. The only tip I'd give on these is just, if you're letting it up and down, just keep some weight on it, because they have this nasty habit of, you can see there as I've pulled it up, the whole thing's sort of furled. If you keep some weight on it when you're adjusting the height of it with, you know, if you've not got the basket on it, just keep a little bit of tension on it. Maybe just put a small weight on there or something, because if you pull it too hard like that, it'll jump off all the runners and it's a pain. And if you're right in the middle of doing your brew and you want to lift the basket, the last thing you want to be doing is messing around with the block and tackle. And then you can, if you want to, put a dolly system up. And just these are the sort of lighting rails you can buy, and you clamp things in them. And somebody made a custom dolly so that you can then slide it backwards and forwards if you wanted to, if you're a semi-invalid like me. But yeah, I found that particularly useful during my time brewing. It just makes for an easier, less stressful day. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the reinforced bottom screen. So hopefully you can see that there. It obviously 1, 2, 3 rings. So in terms of the old one, yeah, I mean the old one, I mean everybody uses it bulge up anyway, right? So this one tends to be quite weak, or should we say flexible? I'm not going to say weak, that's unfair because it's not breaking. It's flexible when used bulged down, but when used bulged up, it is a pretty sturdy bit of kit. I think one of the things that I always think is the sort of acid test for this is how much rigidity is in it. So putting this on, I think, often can answer that question, because I know you'll have all done this, put your overflow pipe in the thing, and when it's in there, you can tell sort of how much flex, right, is in that. I know when you've been doughing in or stirring, you've probably been watching that happen. And I guess my concern is as that's moving around like that, it's lifting that edge. And the thought in my mind is grain. If I'm doing that and it's a small grain bill or a medium grain bill and I'm stirring it and I'm knocking that, is it lifting the edge and allowing something to go by? Don't know, who knows. I certainly have had a couple of brews where I had something scorched onto the bottom of the unit. Now I don't know if that was just because it was a high gravity beer or whether that was because something had eked by. So I don't, as a rule, I don't have a massive issue with this. I think it's a pretty good bit of kit for what it is. It does what it says on the tin. However, there was something that really caught my eye about the new one beyond the reinforced nature of it, and that is the fact, and I'm hoping you can see this on the overhead camera, is that this has a lip. It's been turned down, it's been made and then turned down, and the idea is that that lip will sit into the roll as an opposite roll in the bottom of the malt pipe, and that will give you actually like a positive lock. So this isn't going to move around in the bottom of the malt pipe, and also that's significantly going to stop grain from being able to potentially get around the side if this is moving or if it's flexing. So let's do a little flex test and have a look at it. The unit fits straight away. In fact, it's been opened up slightly over the standard one, so it's actually slightly easier to put together. So yeah, I mean, trust me on this. It feels different. It definitely feels more rigid. You know, there is less chance, I think, of that lifting a corner. You know, yeah, absolutely. It's sort of any flex seems to be limited here to the center, whereas the other one seems to flex all over. I know that's a really hard thing to get across on a video, but I can only tell you, you know, my impression of what it feels like. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely more rigid, and it's even better now this is in. But I think the thing that sells it for me is that just the fact that they've turned that over, and that's going to lock into that lip. Now, I will do my best to show you this, but it's as you can imagine, even on 4K, it's going to be particularly challenging to try and convey just how positive that lock is. Hopefully you can see just on the video that there is a lip there, and that is a rolled lip like that, and then on this side you have another rolled lip. So effectively what you've got is two rolls coming together like so, right? Yeah, it's sort of, imagine if you're of a certain age, imagine the Action Man's gripping hands. So it's a bit odd saying that now, doesn't it? It's a nice snug fit, which is positive. And there we go, it's locked into the bottom of the unit. Yeah, I mean, that's going nowhere now. It dimples down, and I think it will do once you've got the weight on it. But that's such a tight fit in there now, that isn't going anywhere. Let me see if I can get a shot without it dropping out the bottom. Okay, so you can, hopefully you can see that, but around the edge here, it's basically that slot's gone round and locked into that bottom. That's definitely going to help stop debris potentially getting around and out the bottom of the unit. It certainly is a good fit, perfect fit, and that is definitely a lot more sturdy fitting. I have seen somebody else do a video looking at one of the early prototypes of this. I think they filled the malt pipe completely to the top, and then started throwing weight in, and then at the end I believe they stood in it. They suspended it and stood in it. I'm not going to do that today. I think the fact that somebody else has already done that kind of talks to how tough this screen is. So yeah, I think the major benefit for me is the fitting of this and the way it fits. That's definitely going to help stop grain, or any chance of grain getting around the bottom. Yes, big grain bills, that's also going to be good. Also provides a bit more stability for the overflow pipe, which I think is good. Yeah, so not really much more to say than that. I think if the price is right for you, I think they're two good upgrades to do. I certainly will be putting the that will become my default screen, and obviously the handle from my perspective, because we use a block and tackle, this handle will become my default handle. You know, I guess if I was just moving the grain basket, I might consider getting that back out, but knowing how lazy I am, I just tend to use what's to hand, and that's going to be absolutely fine. So yeah, no, 2 good upgrades. As I say, if the price is right for you and you're happy with the upgrade, then I think that's something you could definitely look at. Certainly if you like to do bigger grain bills, or you have any nervousness about stuff just getting around that bottom screen. I don't think they're ridiculously expensive. I don't like to talk about cost. I prefer to talk about the value of something. So for me, I think they were worthwhile upgrades. Nice that that's made in the UK as well. Very good. So I did buy 2 of these. So I am going to give one of these away. So I'm trying to work out how to do this the best way. I think come on the Facebook group, put a comment. I'll put a link to the video on the Facebook group. Put a comment on there, and I'll try to draw somebody at random. And if you're interested, I will send you one of these as a free giveaway, which again I paid for in full. This wasn't donated by Paul or anything. There's no he didn't ask me to do that. He didn't even know I'm probably doing this. But yeah, so come in, comment on the video, and I'll draw somebody at random, and I'll send that spare handle out to you. Okay, hopefully this was useful. Next couple of projects for me is I had a big silver box here. I don't know if you noticed it in the past, that I was using basically to keep my fermenters sort of stable in the winter, in the cooler months. I'm actually swapping that out for a brewing fridge. I've decided now that not being able to brew over the summer months because of some of these high temperature spikes we're tending to get in our summers now is a bit of a pain. So I'm actually just going to do away with the box, remove the stands from the conicals, make shelves for them, and they're hopefully going to fit in a 6-foot fridge, one above the other. I also can use brewing buckets, so I'll probably knock out some shelves. So if I just want to use brewing buckets for some reason, if I want a flat bottomed fermentation, or I'm doing something top fermenting where the conical doesn't matter so much, or if you're not yeast harvesting, which is another reason people use conicals. So yeah, that'll save me a bit of space as well. I should move to having a fridge just on this side over here. Next brew is going to be a wheat beer with a really complicated mashing profile, which is absolutely perfect for the BrewDevil, because obviously you can pre-program all the different stages in, all your rests, your amylase rests, your protein rests, etc, etc. Because the challenge I've found with wheat beers is trying to get that spicy flavour through, and that you have to do by having a lot of little rests at the beginning, starting at much lower temperatures before getting to your mash out, to your sort of primary mashing temperature, and then your mash out. So yeah, that's next. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you've got any questions specifically about those 2 new items, the block and tackle handle or the new reinforced bottom screen, give me a shout. Yeah, happy brewing. Cheers.